In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a big name for your cake. Why'd I go like this? Hi, it's Karolyn. If you want to learn how to bake and decorate amazing cakes, then I'd love for you to join me by hitting subscribe and the bell. This week, I am making a big name on a cake. I wanted to make a really big statement with the name, and I want to show you guys how to do that. So what we're going to learn in this video is how to download different fonts, how to make a font any size that you want, and how to cut a name out of fondant. So let's get into the video. I want to put the name Karolyn on a cake, all right? There are a bunch of different options and things that I do. I have a PC, not a Mac. If you have a Mac, you are going to have to do this differently. I'm not sure what the programs are on a Mac, but I use Microsoft Word. This came with my computer. This program did. So I opened up a new document in Word, and what I want to do is make the margins narrow. So I'm going to go to Layout, Margins, Narrow, just so I can get the most space out of this. And I might actually, you know what, I'm going to also go to Orientation here and Landscape, because I want to make this name big. Now, here are some options. So his name is just spelled the regular way, C-A-M-E-R-O-N. And is regular subjective, because I spell my name with a K, and that's regular to me. Anyway, what I did, wait, here's my sketch, and this is why I don't sketch cakes for people, because look at the lion. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so I want to put his name really big on the bottom tier. The bottom tier I measured is 5 inches tall, so I want the letters to be about 5 inches tall, or maybe a little higher. Couple options. So I type the name out, and you can highlight it, and I like to use up here. I can make it, let's say, 150 big. The problem with doing it this way is I get the width, right? But I don't get the height. And it's super annoying when you find a certain font that you like and it's not tall enough. But you can mess around with a bunch of different fonts. Like I love this Dimbo font and the Sweet Shine I use in my thumbnails on my videos all the time. Dimbo, Bubble Mint is one of my new favorites. Grow Bold is one of my classics, and Omni Black as well. I'm going to link all of my favorite fonts below, and I want to show you real quick how I get new fonts on my computer. So I go to dafont, dafont.com. I will link that in the description below. And they have tons of, like, look how pretty this Just Simple font is. Why couldn't I think of the word font? I like this font. So what I want to do, I go over here to download, and I click download. Down here is a zip folder, so I double click it to open it up, or just single click it to open it up. All right, then I get this box. So here, I don't know what this PNG file, this text document, I don't need that. I need this Just Simple True Type font file. So I'm gonna double click that, and it's gonna open it up. And now what I wanna do is click Install. And it installed Just Simple font on my computer. Now I can go back to Word and go to my fonts here, and I can come right here, is Just Simple is right here. So it probably would look better with lowercase, right? But that's how I install new fonts in my computer. So super simple. And again, I will list all of my favorite fonts and the most popular fonts that I use in the description below. But again, like I love using this Grow Bold, but it's not tall enough for what I want to do. So there are some options. Number one, and I've done this before and I can't show you because I film with my phone. However, I will pretend that I have a phone in my hand. So let's say you find the name that you want and we want to make it a little taller. What I could do is get my phone, and it is very, very, very important that you get the phone exactly head-on shot. You don't want to be above it. You don't want to be below it. You need a head-on shot so you get a straight shot of this. And what you're going to do, take a picture and email it to yourself. Save the picture to your computer. I wonder if I have one. I probably have one saved because I do it so much. All right, I just took a picture of it with my phone to better show you. So here we go. Karolyn. I'm going to right-click, Save Image As. And I will go to my Cake Designs folder. and save it as Cameron. Now I can go back to the document, insert the picture. So I'm going insert pictures from this device, and then I can search up here, Cameron, and here it is. So I'm going to double click that. Now I'm going to right click and go to crop, and I can crop this just so I have the letters. Do you see why it's so important to take the picture head on? So that way the letters are straight, just like it was, you know, just like they're typed above. So now what I want to do, left click on it, and I can pull this down and get these letters as tall as I want them to be. So say I want these to be 5 inches tall. The ruler over here on the left is great. So I'm starting at 3 inches, and I could take it down to 8 inches. And there's a good way to get some taller letters by using the lettering that is on your computer. Now, I don't want to do that. So here's another option. I'm going to Google, and the name is Cameron. This really works for popular spelled names. Sometimes you can find it with other names, so just try. So type in Cameron and then name, and hit enter. Go to images, and look, there's tons of Cameron names. Great. Okay. So which one do I want to use? I don't know. I like this one. So I'm going to right click, copy image, and then go to the Word document and right click and paste. Now do the same thing. Right click and crop. So I'm going to crop this just so I have all the letters and nothing else. And now I want this to be 5 inches tall. So I'm going to start here at 0 and bring it down to 5 and see how that looks. Now up here, it's only 6 3/4 inches wide, and I kind of want to bring it out to, I guess, 8 1/2. There, now it's a lot easier to read, right? So I know I can make it that wide because this bottom tier is going to be 10 inches. So I can do the name between 8 and 9 inches wide. How do I know that? I took a ruler and I measured the cakes before I even started this progress. And I'm still laughing at this lion. Anyway. So this is how I want the name to be on the cake. I'm going to go to File and Print. Perfect. Let's take this over to the cake. All right, I have my cake in the fridge. And here's the lettering. I folded the paper underneath just so I could get the bottom of the paper to where the letters are going to be on the bottom of the board. And this actually looks good. This is a good height, a good width, and that's what I'm going to go with. So whenever you print something out, you know, bring it to your cake and measure it, like see how it looks against the cake, and then you can go back to the computer and resize it and print it out the size that you want it to be. All right, now I want to make the name, and I'm going to do the technique I've done in many other videos. I have the name here. So I rolled out what I want to do. I'm going to do the name on the yellow. I'm actually going to airbrush the yellow with a little orange. You don't have to do that. And then I have a background color that I'm going to put everything on. So first of all, I mix all of my fondant with Tylose powder. The Tylose powder is going to help the fondant set really hard. It's going to let it hold its shape. If you don't add Tylose powder to your fondant, you're going to cut it and it's going to drag everywhere. It's going to be too soft. It's not going to hold its shape. It's going to be so annoying. You have to add this in there. A little goes a long way. However, if you add some Tylose and you find that it's not holding its shape like this it's not stiff. You see how thick it is? It's like an 1/8, a 1/16 of an inch or whatever. And it's not super stiff. However, it's holding its shape. It's not too soft. So I can cut through this and it's not going to get messed up. What you want to do is sprinkle a little bit of Tylose, maybe about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon for something of this amount, and sprinkle it in, knead it into the fondant, roll it out, let it sit. I'm letting this fondant sit for about 15-20 minutes before I start to use it so the Tylose can start to work and start to stiffen the fondant. Your fondant must be stiff for you to do something like this and have clean cuts. When I rolled this out, I made sure that I rolled it out so the name would fit on top of it. Obviously, if this was thinner, the letters would be hanging off. So you need to make sure that you roll it out however tall and however wide that you need it to be. When I put it down on the fondant, I take my hand and I run it over the whole thing, making sure that the whole thing is on the fondant, because I've done it before where I put it down and it's hanging off of the fondant. And if you start to trace and then it's hanging off the fondant, you got to start all over. I only tell you what to do because I've made so many stupid mistakes. Tools that I have. I have this white cutting board and I put it on a piece of non-skid pad. If I do that, then the cutting board's not going to slide around as I work with it. I have a wet paper towel that I keep in the corner so I can wipe my tools on it. And I have a little bit of water in a cup with a tiny paintbrush so I can glue the fondant to each other. Tools I'm going to use: an X-Acto knife and a Dresden tool. This is my favorite tool. It curves on both ends and one end is a little more pointy, the other end is a little more flat, and you can use the curve in here to trace. I love this tool so much. They don't really make this one anymore. Sometimes I can find it and link it below, but I'll try to find this one, and if not, I will link others below that are similar. So now, I want to trace this name onto the fondant below. You have to find a happy medium. So if your fondant is too soft, when you start to trace, you're going to poke a hole in the fondant because it's not going to hold its shape. It's not going to withstand the pressure. That's why your fondant must be stiff. You have to find a happy medium where you're pushing in that you are able to transfer the line on the fondant below without poking a hole. Once you poke a hole in it, as you're cutting it out, it's difficult to cut the holes out. So you need to make sure that you put just enough pressure on the fondant. Now, some of these letters are stuck together and I want to keep them there. So you can see the A is stuck together, but the M and the E are completely separate. The E and the R are together. You know, like I'm going to keep them together where I can. And so what I want to do, I'm taking the flatter end and the curvy part, and I'm just going to start to trace the outline of the white and get all of the letters, making sure you're pressing hard, but not too hard. After you do a letter, you can keep your hand down, peel it back, make sure you can see the letter. Always keep your hand down and peel it back, because if you lift the paper up, you can't put it back down where it was. So only peel it back. And then I'm going to do the rest of the letters. Make sure you get the insides of the letters as well. See right here, I just pushed a little too hard and there's a little spot in the fondant now. And it's just annoying to cut it out. Like I'm gonna have to cut inside a little bit. That's why I like using the curved part of this. I'm not sticking the very point in the fondant, I'm using the curved end. Again, hold your hand down and peel it back. Make sure, oh look, I missed this part, this curved part of the R. That's why you wanna always peel it back. That way you could just put it back down and retrace any lines that you missed. And looks like I have everything. All right, now I have my paper towel. I'm gonna keep wiping my X-Acto knife on the paper towel because fondant is gonna start to stick to it, and I wanna keep this as clean as possible. Whenever I cut out letters, I'm gonna cut the inside of the letters out first rather than the outside. It's easier to cut the inner pieces. There are dirty edges, what I like to call them, or not clean edges. The fondant is sticking out where I cut it, and it's just not smooth. So what I want to do is, before I cut any of the other letters out, I'm going to clean the inside of the letters. So I'm just taking something smooth, like the smooth part of this Dresden tool, and what I'm doing is just pushing the fondant back on itself so there's no pieces sticking out. Just using my fingers, whatever I can, like the pointy end of this to get into small corners, right? So you just want to smooth out all of your cuts. If you take the time to smooth out your cuts, everything is going to look so much nicer and cleaner. It takes some time, but that's the difference between, you know, nice cakes and really wow cakes, if you will. All right, now I'm going to cut the rest of it out. So I'm going to keep the picture close so I can look at it, so I can see, like down here, the C and the A are connected, the A and the M are connected. So I'm just going to keep referencing the picture as I'm cutting it out. Now that I've cut the first part out, I can start to remove the fondant. Now what you want to do when you're doing this, carefully peel it away, because if it's sticking, you want to be able to cut it away rather than ruining the letter, right? See right here how it's sticking here? It's easily coming off, but sometimes you can ruin your letter if you just peel it off. So I want to take my X-Acto knife and remove any other pieces that are sticking that I need to get rid of. And this is so hard to do because I'm sitting over here and I'm working over here. So I need to turn it towards me so I can see it. And there's little pieces of fondant. So I'm just taking my knife and trying to cut away any pieces that are sticking out, any pieces that are just dirty or jagged. And then once that is done, I could take my finger and smooth out the cuts. Again, this is the lengthy part of the process. However, it's going to make everything look pretty. So taking your fingers, taking your tools, or whatever you need to do to smooth everything out. All right, that looks good. So what I'm going to do is take the letters and place it back on top and reshape them, just because they get misshapen as you work with them. Perfect. And now I will cut the rest out. All right, and now if you're not going to airbrush, you can skip this next part. I will put chapters in here so you can skip over it, but I'm going to airbrush and give it a little bit of dimension. Actually, what I want to do is take my Dresden tool and define some of the lines in here. So this E, this part of the E, in between the E and the R, I want it more defined so you can see it, although I don't want to cut it out. Okay, and I think that's good, so let's go airbrush it. All right, here's my airbrush machine. This is by Cake. I love this thing. I've had it for years. I can find it and link it below. It is a bit of an investment, but once you have it, you're going to use it all the time. I have these airbrush colors. You have to use airbrush coloring, not gel coloring. And what I want to do, I want to make orange, but I don't want the orange to be too bright, so I'm going to tone it down with a little bit of brown. I have this cup here that I only use it for my airbrush, and I can squeeze in the sides and make a point and pour it in here. So I'm going to get a little bit of orange in here, and I'm just going to add a drop of brown, teeny bit. Mix it around. And I feel like it looks a little too brown, so I'm just going to add some more orange. And that looks good. I'll have a napkin here, or a paper towel, so I can test the color. And I'm just going to almost fill the cup with the coloring. Excuse my cornstarch on the countertop, it's still here from when I rolled out the fondant. And I don't know why I have to apologize for that because I'm working. But anyway. So this is the on-off switch. This dial here, if you turn it all the way up, it's going to be high pressure spray. If you turn it all the way down, it's going to be low. So I like to do somewhere in between. And I always have a paper towel handy. That way I can just hold it here and while I'm resting without turning it off. Now, this trigger here, you're going to pull back and it's going to start to spray. You really only have to pull it back just a little bit to spray, not so much because that's going to be a really full spray. And I'm not even sure how I want to airbrush this. I just want to get a little bit of coloring in here. So let's turn it on. It's going to get loud and I'm going to test the color first. So holding the paper towel, and see, that's a nice brownish orange. That's what I wanted. So first I'm going to try to get, the closer you get, the more of a line you get, right? The further away, the more of a spray you get. So I'm going to try to get kind of close to the fondant, and maybe I'll just outline the letters. And I'm barely pulling this trigger back. And as I turn it, then I can easily get the sides and the top part of the letter, right? So that's why I'm turning this all over. And that looks kind of cool. And I just want to hold this further away and just spray a little bit, getting the color a little deeper. There we go. Then I'm going to empty this into the bowl. Go over to my sink, pull this trigger all the way back to empty it. And then what I want to do is run very, very hot water through it, through the cup, pull the trigger the whole way back, and it's going to start to clean the cup. I want to turn the dial all the way up to the highest pressure. Just let the hot air run through, or hot air, the hot water run through it to clean it out. And once that's all clean, then I can turn it off. That looks pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is let this sit for about 10 minutes for it to dry. So if you can see up here, it's a little shiny. I just want to make sure none of the color is shiny before I start handling it, and I will put it on the brown color. All right, this is dry. The part that was shiny is not shiny anymore, and it's not going to get messed up as I handle it. So let's get this on the background. What I want to do, get this off of here, flip it over, and now I want to put the letters on backwards on top of here. So I'm flipping them over so the back is exposed, and then I can line it up. I'm going to have to get close, so this is probably focusing on my head, but I want to line them up like I did before, but we're just doing it reverse. So I can see the letters through the paper, and I'm just lining everything up so everything is straight. Getting a little bit of water on here and making sure I'm not moving the letters, and I'm just getting water on the back. So I need both hands to do this. I'm going to hold the letter in place as I'm painting it. And you want to get enough to make it sticky. So if you don't do enough, it's just going to fall off of the brown part. If you do too much, it's going to seep out from underneath. So again, I feel like I should get shirts made and just do a happy medium. You need to find a happy medium. So I have my brown fondant here. I'm going to flip it over. So this is the top, this is the bottom. I'm flipping it over. You got to make sure that it is covering the whole thing, so I have a good enough border so I can cut it out. Start at one end, and I'm slowly letting it fall down. Nah. All right, I just started putting this on the wrong way. It was on an angle. All right. This is why this part's a little tricky. Trying not to mess up the letter. Wait, I'm sweating right now. All right. I'm gonna have to re-roll this fondant out. So let me do that real quick. All right, I gotta do this standing up because it's not gonna work if I try to do it off to the side where I'm sitting down. So I re-rolled out the fondant because it had watermarks on it, and now I have to get the back wet again. So now it's all wet, and I just want to reposition it and make sure all the letters are straight. Start on the end, making sure that it's completely, there we go, and gently let it fall down. And as I'm doing that, sorry if my arm's in the way, I'm just pressing it down on the brown fondant. There we go. So doing it this way is easier because the letters are all in the right spot. And then you can flip it over. There we go. All right, back to the table. All right, much better. I have my wet paper towel that I'm going to keep wiping my X-Acto knife on. Let me just get rid of some of this excess. Now, I'm going to have to turn it so I can see it because I don't want to mess this up. And it's hard for me to do it off to the side. But what I want to do is cut an even border. I don't think I'm going to go all the way down into here, but I'm going to cut an even border around the lettering. So you have to get close. I'll show you to start, and I'll keep it straight. I guess make the border that thick. So I want to get really close and just go around the entire thing. I'm going to have to turn it this way so I can see. And now I just want to use my tools to get out any of the little pieces that are still stuck in there. I don't want to cut the center pieces out. I like having the brown background. And same thing like before, probably want to turn this over and just use my finger and smooth out the edges and use any tools to get into any crevices. You know, same thing we've been doing. And once I get the back all pretty, flip it over and refine any edges that you could see from the front. And here is our huge name. So a few things. I'm not ready to put this on the cake yet. I don't want it to dry out. And I do have cake dummies, an option if you want. I have a cake dummy. This is going on a 10-inch cake. This is a 10-inch cake dummy. But I did put 2 push pins in the bottom, and then you could stand it up without it rolling around. And then you can lift this up and put it on top. However, this is only 4 inches high, I think. So the top and the bottom of the letters will hang over the top, so I can't dry it on this. If I had a bigger one, then I could. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this on the cake in a couple hours. I don't want it to dry out, so just getting a regular Ziploc bag and putting it in there. I think it'll be a little easier to get it on a piece of paper. And I'm gonna store it here until I'm ready to put it on the cake. So there you go. There was a bunch of different ways that you can get different fonts or find names to put on your cakes. I will put the finished product over here instead of holding it like I usually do, duh. So it was a little challenging because all she wanted on there was the lion, right? So if you look at the cake, I did a textured buttercream decoration on the top and the third tier. And then I just tried to think of other things to do. That's why I did the name really big to try to make a statement. I added those little balls and some leaves and I don't know. I like the way that it turned out though. So why did I say that? But I do like the way that it turned out. And yeah, so I stuck the name to the bottom tier with some piping gel on the back. And I did keep it in that Ziploc bag until I was ready to put it on the cake. And it was in there for like 2 or 3 hours before I was ready to put it on the cake. And side note, the last time I wore this shirt, somebody asked me what this means, and it's totally a weightlifting competition that I was never in, but I love this style of shirt. I don't know. I'm like a poser right now. I was never in this. I do lift weights though. But anyway, what's wrong with me? If you have any other questions or comments, leave them below. And you can follow me on my socials, and I have my website. Everything is linked in the description below as well. And if you want to stick around, you can watch these 2 videos next and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Please like this video if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's cake. Have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.